that going to bother you?
Oh, no, sir.
No.
Good work. Oh, that's great.
You can edit it.
Will that be on the website? Will that be on the website?
Chair. That's my. Oh, that's another one. I think it's out of your bag. It did. And I can share, and I will share. So when you guys start going down, this my front mine's about. So the other ways you can use it, and I'll plug in like at the break if I need to. We get some chalk. Yeah, just unplug.
October 17th, 2018 Hot Springs Village POA Board meeting will begin with a prayer by Cindy Erickson and pledge of allegiance led by Buddy Dixon.
Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, I ask your blessing upon this assembly today that we might serve your will for Hot Springs Village. I especially ask that you provide relief to those enduring the effects of hurricanes and tsunamis. Remind us that true suffering exists beyond our gates and inspire us to respond to them in their time of need. May you continue to bless Hot Springs Village, reminding us all of its natural beauty, the hard work of those who serve as its stewards, and those who have chosen to call this home. Amen.
I'm pledged allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any guests? Introduction guests. We'll move to the next order of business, approval of order of business. Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. The order of business is set. Consent agenda covers the following items: the ratification of regular meeting minutes, executive session minutes, standing committee minutes, governance of standing committee meetings of ACC, GAC, golf, governance, lakes, recreation, trails, and an appointment trials. Thank you. It's been an interesting morning. An appointment of Dennis Gee to the Lakes Committee. Are there any items the members want to remove from the consent agenda? If there's no objection, then the consent agenda will be adopted. Hearing no objection, then the items listed on the consent agenda are adopted. The next business in order is questions and comments from the audience concerning the agenda items. Being none, the next order of business is...
Chairman. It's going to be fairly short, but I want to go on record as being totally opposed to the approval of the budget today. I want to go on record as indicating that this budget was done with the 2018 budget against a 2019 budget and not against actuals. The revenue budget was missed in 2018, or will be, by about $2 million. If the budget is approved as is, and I understand there are a couple of changes, but it will be missed by nearly $2 million next year. Cost projections, in addition to budget and budget calculations, are based on an oversized or overstated revenue projection, and virtually no consideration or discussion was provided on departments or services targeted for scaling back or closure of any of the operations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. The next, yes, yes.
I just wanted to bring up that, it looks like the outdoor pool is on the budget. And I would just wanted to ask that, the outdoor pool construction be delayed until we go ahead and use those funds for deferred maintenance. Or use a little bit of money for Balboa Beach. Balboa Beach is such a great, resource that's year-round, and all the residents can use it. That's all I had. Yeah, oh, the question is, the outdoor pool is going to be,
The outdoor pool hasn't been voted on yet.
oh, okay, so when will that be voted on?
We'll have an update on that this morning.
Oh, all right, thank you.
My name is Steve Rust. I live at 11 Rover Lane, and I hope I'm bringing this up at the right time. The first thing I read in the Village Digest about the November 31 p.m. meeting was that the purpose of the meeting would be to announce the results of the vote on the amendments to the association's declaration and the incorporation. I now have in my hand a letter stating the purpose of the November 31 p.m. meeting is to approve the amendments to the association's declarations and the amendments to articles of incorporation. The vote concerning the amendments is to determine the direction the majority of the people in the village want to take. Therefore, I would have to assume that this letter is incorrect. My question to you is, why was the letter printed that changed the purpose of the meeting from announcing the results of the vote to now approving the amendments?
Can you show me what you're referring to in that letter? Would you mind to show me what you're referring to in the letter?
I'm sorry?
She'd
I
like to
don't
see
know what
the
you're
letter.
referring to in the letter.
In this letter, it states that the purpose of the November 31 p.m. meeting, and it says to approve the amendments. In the Village Digest, the purpose of that meeting was to announce the results of the vote.
That we have this language was written by our attorneys on the special meeting. Obviously, to approve an amendment requires the vote of the people. That's the language, the legal language that is used, though. Doesn't mean we are approving it by the board. It means that particular proposal, each proposal is either going to be ratified by your vote or not.
Okay. To me, that's not the way the letter reads. It says it's to approve the amendments of the meeting.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I've learned to wait a little longer now. Okay, being none, the next business in order is the CEO and financial report. The chair recognizes Leslie now.
Okay, I'm going to start with my memo.
And then we'll go into the financials. So you have that memo in front of you. First of all, marketing update. We had, Stephanie, Linda, Kevin, and I had a phenomenal meeting that was hosted by the Arkansas Department of Parks and Tourism. And the purpose was really twofold: for us to discuss with other similar communities some of our complexities surrounding master plan communities, and as well as to discuss for the 3 Arkansas Cooper communities our 2020 anniversary plans. As you guys will remember, we've been talking, having those discussions since last June to discuss different ideas of how specific communities might move themselves off of center, so to speak, in various different areas through their challenges. So this time we added to the discussion Holiday Island, Fairfield Bay, Diamond Head, Diamond City, and Ozark Acres. So it was interesting to hear all of those different components together. They are, some of them are still private, most of them are municipalities or have some form of that, which brings with it various different challenges. Many of them are just like us in that they have a significant amount of assessment and tax delinquent properties, which creates issues for their budget and so forth. But all of them are in a renewal. All of us are in kind of a renewal revitalization stage, and it was very encouraging to have the state's support for those efforts and for them to see the impact, the economic impact that a planned community has. So we're encouraged to have the state's support. They will actually be attending the January Ideal Living Show, which I've mentioned before. If you've seen some of our video shoots and some of our great photography, actually the state's PR and marketing firm, CJRW, did those things for us, or had those things set up for us. They're doing it, they've done it in Bella Vista, they're also doing it in Cherokee Village. It will be part of their future campaigns. So snippets of Hot Springs Village will be in the state's campaigns going forward as well. Going on to a second item of marketing, the golf team, specifically Tom and Matt, met with Oaklawn's new marketing director, Joan Watts, last week. She's phenomenal. She has got so much energy and is just super excited to be in this role. Loves Hot Springs, loves Hot Springs Village, just the natural piece of it, and was so encouraged by our team's offer to partner up on marketing efforts. So there's a lot of opportunity there, and I won't steal any thunder. I'll let Oaklawn roll those things out at their own pace. But we're very excited about the opportunity. Just encourage everyone, if you haven't yet, check into Oaklawn's concerts and some of their special dinners and the things that they hold. You know, we're always looking for, we talk a lot to them about having activities, kind of enjoying time together with people, and they have a lot of fun things going on that I think sometimes we don't think about. So, okay, so let's go to the financial review. And what we've done in September, as we do each year, is project out where we think the bottom line is going to be. And with all due respect to Mr. Sherman, I'm not projecting a $2 million miss, so I'm not exactly sure where that's coming from. I am projecting some misses, though. Liz and I got together and looked at that. Those things are detailed here for you. As you know, we look at it not only by division or by department, but then as a whole. So as a whole, what I'm committed to is to not spend any more cash than what the board has approved in the budget. So when we miss, then we have to make adjustments elsewhere, and that's what you see referenced here. So I did notice what I believe is one error in the financials that I've asked Liz to go back and audit the record for, and that's the first bullet point here. It looks to me like, you know, we made some significant culvert repairs, which really should be, you know, land improvements, and they look to be in the operating expense. You know, again, cash-wise, we spent the money, so it doesn't necessarily matter bottom line, but it does matter in when you're trying to determine whether an operation has met or not met or, you know, their operating budget. So they'll be auditing that for proper GAAP classification, and by October, we may have an adjustment there. And I'm really disappointed this year. We've said it all along. We knew that our road was lost and we not had successful entity lawsuits. You know, we got some very early wins. We collected over $1 million in the first year. We got really aggressive with our estimates for the second year, saying that we think we could, you know, come out and do it again. And I tell you, the court system blocked down a little bit on us in a couple of spots and blocked a few of our opportunities there. We haven't given up, but we are projecting $500,000 due for that. And as a consequence, the unspent budget capital, meaning operations and non-essential operating expense is being held until we for sure understand where we will be ending the year. Had a really rainy August and September. Golf, I know Tom is, you know, it's just, was not happy about the golf season. Although, you know, I've got to give it to the golf team. They still pulled off several tournaments, and they've made the best of a real wet situation. But September had 94 fewer playable days across all 8 courses, and when looking at what we earned last year's fourth quarter, so fourth quarter of 2017, and trying to project out that most likely we law is poised to probably miss their revenue target by about $300,000. Food and beverage is poised to miss their budget by $200,000. We've talked about our unexpected, you know, takeover of DeSoto Club, and some of the, you know, even though we've made great strides in our cost of goods sold to revenue projections and our labor to revenue projections, I mean, each month we're making up ground there. It's just not been enough to overcome that unexpected operation. As well as we still do have amounts due us from the former proprietor, and we are aggressively pursuing those amounts. Public utilities, as you know, that is billed every other month, so September is a month of no billing. And in trying to project out where they're likely to end, they may miss budget slightly, but I believe they're going to hit their budget. We will know for sure that in October. Again, the rain actually hurt their budget, right? Because people didn't use as much water during the summer. But that's a good thing too, because that helps save our property owners some money on their utility bills. Recreation is actually, looks like they're going to beat their budget by $250,000. So thanks to Stacy and her team. Public safety, I think, is going to beat their budget by about $125,000, and administration will beat our budget by about $125,000. So all in, I mean, if you look at it, there's about, you net all of those, we're about $500,000 off, which means we're stopping the capital spending. If we get, you know, any better or worse information in October, we just continue to deal with the actual information. So I'll stop there for a minute. That's the overall specific financial stuff.
Just to, then bottom line, you're still anticipating making the budget.
Bottom line, cash-wise.
Cash-wise.
Yes, cash-wise, I anticipate still being able to put money in reserves, yeah.
Okay. So our the strength of the balance sheet in terms of cash, reserves, and association equity is still on target.
It should be on target, absolutely, yes. There was another, I saw another note come out, I think it was Frank Lemming's note on the very first page of the fine work that he does. I think he had a mistake though in his very first page. He talked about He compared this year, 2018 to 2017, and noted that 2018 was a deficit in spending. We had revenues, expense, and capital. I just want to remind everyone that we had rollover capital of $2.5 million from 2017. Remember, we held most of 2017's capital, so it's not necessarily a fair representation to look at just that one year. You actually need to look at 2 years to determine whether or not there's net a deficit, so to speak. So as of this point, there's not a deficit. There is some disappointment in our results, though. So, any other questions on the financials? Then just lastly, the real estate sales and discovery packages. We have those 50 new home permits approved. We've done 28 discovery packages. I'm super proud of the team and the collaboration that happened across multiple departments. Can't say enough about, it's one thing to say we should have discovery packages. We should market those. It's entirely something different to pull together all of the components that go into making sure when a person arrives at the gate and until they leave that gate, that they have had the experience of a lifetime, that they've had a seamless experience from where they stay to where they eat to where they play golf to where they go to the fitness center and who knows they're there, and is there a is one of our local residents there to help them and kind of be their friend for the weekend or whatever. And this team has pulled that together in very short order under the leadership of Kevin Sexton. And he certainly didn't do it by himself. There are many people that made that happen, but it certainly was his focus in that, and I appreciate that. You see the rest of our sales there in your packet, and I will answer any questions that you have.
Okay, I'll go. So are we anticipating about a $3 million rollover of capital in 2019, or is it premature to predict that?
It's premature. I would expect that we would roll over some capital. I don't think we've spent all of our money, and especially in public utilities. But based on operating results, what we may be doing is not rolling some things over in order to save the cash.
Okay, good. And then on, in the financial dashboard, there's the statement that 51% of the association's year-to-date revenue came from billed assessments. And in our last meeting, we had a discussion about the 60/40 rule, and I think the comment was made that this 51% is not indicative of the 60/40. Do I understand that right?
Yeah, you're right. Because the thing that's not there are the annual fees that would also count as a membership fee.
So is there a way to get that?
Well, the 90% is the other side.
And the expense side as well, the
Yeah,
second rule.
Yeah. So is there a way to get that added to this report, just kind of track what our expectations are with regard to that?
Yes, I think it's most easy to do that as of October because of the final, basically the final billing of utilities, or one of the final billings.
Just something to think
In the
about. Don't need an
first
answer
quarter,
right
maybe.
now, but maybe
Yeah.
we can think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And I would also add that as long as we are tracking to budget, I guess, net on the assessments, what you can consider is right now, we've said we're gonna be $500,000 on assessments. And that's not enough to flip that switch. We said we would need another $4 million on the opposite side in our operations. That's kind of the measurement I always stick with. So if somewhere on the opposite side, we've done $4 million more in non-assessment, non-membership revenue, we know we're in trouble. Or if our assessment side has dropped by a similar level, we know we're in trouble, but we can add that.
Okay, very good. And then on page 13, this is the quarterly department overview. A new exhibit for us this month. We do these quarterly, you say, yeah, okay. All right, so the very first column is called the 2018 annual budget net. Does that include capital, or is it just revenue and expense net as it gets stated?
This is only revenue and expense, or you got capital? Oh, you're doing the full on subsidy.
So that when you're doing a comparison to the last two columns.
Oh, because you got capital year to date, yes.
That's what I wanted
Yes,
to know,
yes.
is if I could compare those
Yes.
with or without capital. That was my question. And so, just some of the rows that caught my attention, one is marketing. It looks like our year-to-date subsidy in marketing is about $156,000. We predicted $339,000. Does that accurately indicate that we're underspending our pace on marketing this year?
Not necessarily. We have several things due in the fourth quarter. Cheryl, I don't know of anything major that we underspent. I mean, I think it's just timing at this point.
Okay, very good. And then on real estate sales, it looks like a $113,000 subsidy that we projected profit, so to speak, slight profit, so to speak. So that, but yet we've said we're very close to our lot sales goal and our development, properties goal, but yet there's this gap.
Yeah,
what would
the
be
gap-
explanation there.
Yeah, the gap is not selling pocket communities and having the revenues, not just from lot sales, but actually the close of those houses. So that's the.
Okay, I only had 4 of these, so I'm not gonna go on forever. Granada Grill, again, it looks like disappointing results there. We have a nearly $100,000 subsidy where we predicted a slight, quote, profit for this year. But that remains a challenge for us, evidently.
It remains a significant challenge for us. I will say that if you were to go back, somebody just asked me this question. If you were to go back and you were to look at our subsidy level over the years, we subsidized when there were just 2 restaurants, Granada Grill and Balboa Club, $500,000 to $1 million a year. And as you can see, we have all of these. I'm very disappointed in these results, so don't misunderstand me. But for us to be at this subsidy all these years later with all of these additional locations, I can tell that the team is working very hard to overcome. And we've still got some room to make up, but I'm still pleased with where we are considering what we've had to overcome.
Okay, thanks. And it turns out I lied because I flipped the page. There was a couple of others that I was looking at, both water and wastewater. It looks like we're underperforming expectations there.
No, this is actually, to me, this is actually a function of our bi-monthly billing, right? So you're only, so that's just a timing right there.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's 7 months of revenue.
Thanks. That's all from me.
Any other comments? Questions? Okay. Then I guess we'll move to the next business in order, which is the CLO report. Chair recognizes the name.
Yes, good morning, thank you. I just want to do a shout out to Jason and his team for Barcelona Road project. It's open, it came in, they done a great job on that. So thanks to Jason and Alan, the team. The emergency action plan that we're required to do by ANRC is about 60% complete, and we should have that done soon. Staff and Public Works Committee are reviewing the plan, and this is mandated by the state of any high hazard dam in the state that you have this complete plan, which identifies all your downstream people to evacuate in the event of a flood or breaking the dam. Wastewater treatment Improvement phase 1 is 95% complete, so we'll end the year on that job being completed. Those of you that live on Lake Balboa should have received your letters with the details of the Balboa drawdown that's coming up very quickly. And it also gave resident sources for dock building or moving or seawall repairs, etc. So we will open that valve on November 1st, and we will close that valve on February 28th. And then it will begin the refilling process. The other great thing that's going on with compliance, this year, after all of the compliance department in conjunction with the Lakes Department went around looking at boat decals on all the lakes, and we only have one violation that is still outstanding, so that's great news. And that property is in foreclosure, so we hope to resolve that. Installation of the hydrocourt system at the tennis center is complete. Outdoor recreation, there is a dog park forum, so October 25th from 5:30 to 7 at Coronado Community Center. So they will be talking about dog park rules, dog behavioral issues, reporting. So you may want to bring your dog, I'm just kidding. Dog handling, fun events, tips, parks improvements, and questions and answers. So most of you don't have it, the humans that have the problem, it's not the dog. There is a new performance metric we've added this month, and that is under the Public Utilities Department. And you'll see year-to-date through September, and it's called Water Resources. And it tells how much water we have consumed, all of the village has consumed and accounted for. And then how much water has been produced at the water plant. And currently we have about a 33% water not accounted for, and that could be leaks, it could be a multitude of things. But I have to say, Jason and his team have really worked on that. I've seen it much higher. Like to have it 0, but 25% is kind of a norm for a municipality. We're not one, but for a water department with the number of miles of water lines that we have. So I think that's good, and they continue to improve that. So you will see that metric every month on that. The other thing I'd like to say is Jason has met his yearly quota on repairing lift stations. We're already at 40, so I hope that continues and even have a few more in 2018. So all in all, they're doing a great job. Questions?
Well, when Barcelona Road, I'm if you hear that, it came in under a protected clause. So I'm glad to see it's open, and we still have some things we're going to change there, like redoing the culvert flow.
I believe they've already redone the culvert. Yes, it's already been done.
And the Coronado tennis courts, I've actually been by there a couple times. It looks like they did an outstanding job on those too. So that should last us. Those courts should be in good shape for many years to come. That's a good job.
Thank you.
Was the tennis project also under budget, or is it too early to know yet?
Well, we had a contract for that particular project, and that was their bid, and I assume it was the amount that was.
There were no change orders. So it came
No change orders to
Good
that,
job.
so.
Thank you.
On the 30% figure on waste water that we can't account for, Jason did mention to me that the bi-monthly billing skews that figure somewhat, so he could possibly be right on target with his 25%.
Yeah, let's hope so. Yeah. So it's been trending down, and as they make line repairs, and it's like having trees in the woods. If there's lines out there, we don't know that there's a little bit of sound or whatever, but they are making a lot of improvements in that area. give us an update on that.
Good morning. So it seems like it's the day to praise Jason Temple, and I'm going to do so again. So Jason Temple and myself, and then two of my team members, Charlie Brown and Norman Meredith, met with our pool contractor and our pool engineer yesterday to review the 80% plans. So as part of that review, we looked at everything from pumps and piping to chemical feeding, landscaping, construction details, what's going to be included in that. We looked at everything from bubblers and shade shelters to benches, water depth, entry for ADA compliance, as well as for accessibility. And from that review, we garnered about 8 pages worth of notes with our contractor and our engineer. So they're going to go back, they'll be making those changes to the plans, incorporating some of the things that we've asked for, and then actually coming up with a new way in which to combine both our chemical feeding so that it's an automatic feed for chemicals on the pool design for the plans, as well as the structure of how that's going to look. I actually had a quick talk as well, so we use our mornings very well here at the board meeting with John Fronning from ACC for some fencing questions specifically because we are located on the golf course. And while our protective covenants require wrought iron fencing on the golf courses themselves, there is a certain area away from the golf course, and John and I talked about this, and we'll be bringing all of this to ACC for approval and discussion, but to actually provide some screening fencing around the actual pumps and the chemical rooms so that they're not just viewable from everywhere within the pool or the golf course. So we had that meeting yesterday. It lasted about 3.5 hours. At the conclusion of the meeting, we then took a drive out and went to the existing site again so that we could see how everything laid out on their original plans, how that was going to look to the site. And we're hoping within the next 45 days that we'll have those finals for discussion, both at ACC, for the board, and for the community to review. So I'm trying to be sensitive maybe to our audience who may listen to a report like that and it sounds perhaps like a done deal. And just a reminder, it's not. This board authorized the staff to find out all of this detailed information so that when a proposal is presented for us to consider, we're fully informed. We can make a fully informed decision. So anybody who thinks this sounds like it's done, it's not done. Just to that statement, Cindy, what I would say, this is a plan. So what we're doing is putting a plan together that incorporates everything from last July's roundtables, using all of the public input, the subcommittee that was then formed in August, using all of their input, as well as then all of the discussions through the board meetings and all of the inputs that's come from that as well.
Stacy, so the next steps, because I believe you, after this, you also have to then go to the Department of Health, the Health Department. So when do you anticipate at this point with what you know, give us the timeline, give yourself some leeway, don't tell us too early. When do you anticipate coming back to the board with this full package, which is the second, to Cindy's point, kind of the second decision point?
So just kind of an off the cuff, and we've been working with that with Carruthers and Larkin as well, which are the two contractors that we've been working with to develop the plans. There is a calendar hanging in my office actually that shows that we should be coming back from the Department of Health somewhere between January and February. It is remembering that the Department of Health is somewhere between an 8 and a 12-week evaluation timeline. So a lot of that will depend on that based on that 12-week. So if we go to the longest length, we'd be looking somewhere of getting that back from them around February.
Stacy, are you still looking at the same budgeted amount that you have, that we authorized? Is it gone up or down? Can you tell yet?
Same budget amount.
Same one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple of other announcements, just want everybody to remember. On November 30th, the board meeting will be at Coronado Center at 9 o'clock. Due to the Thanksgiving holidays, and this facility is not available, so please remember that. And also, as the gentleman said, that the letter that was sent out is required by the declaration to have a 45-day advance notice to all of our members. And that meeting will also be at Coronado Center, November 30th at 1 p.m. to announce the results of the declaration vote. And the proxies will be mailed on October 26th, so everyone should be getting those that are in good standing.
Any more questions from comments? Being none, we'll move on to current business. The next business matter is ratification of the RV Park Improvement Project. The chair recognizes Director Lerner.
Thank you. I move to ratify the RV Park Improvement Project not to exceed $100,000 as approved in the 2018 budget in accordance with Chapter 1, Article 19, Section 1, Hot Springs Village, Arkansas Property Owners Association Policy Guide. This RV Park Improvement Project is being ratified for the sake of transparency. The Coronado RV campsite was built and opened in 1987 in an area below Lake Peneda Dam on the shore of Lake Coronado. This amenity provides a place in which property owners can camp with water and electrical hookups. The original site was approved for 6 parking places and constructed in 1998 by Recreation Maintenance and Public Works. 4 additional pads were constructed in 1998. The 2018 approved budget includes $100,000 for RV park improvements. Plans were developed to expand and improve this amenity to provide recreational vehicle facilities for property owners, sponsored guests, and sponsored visitors. The planned improvements include the following: add sewer to 10 existing sites, construct 10 to 12 additional sites with sewer, water, and electric, install duplex lift station, install new electric panels and 400 amp meter service for existing sites, improve all roads within the park, which includes leveling the dip just east of the entrance exit, widening the exiting paved road using 3-inch asphalt, level all parking pads, excavate ditches to allow for proper drainage, install needed culverts, and replace current fill culverts. Add and replace signage, add 16 by 35 concrete patio pads, add tree reflectors, and landscape. Existing sites will be changed to 75 feet by 30 feet and remain pull-through. New sites will be various lengths, most 75 feet and 30 feet, consistent with and will be back-in 60-degree sites. Utility corridor will be the park road for assessing sites and to reconnect to the entry-exit road. Additionally, all roads within the park will be improved and a one-way traffic pattern will be established. All pads will be leveled, ditches and culverts installed for drainage, and concrete picnic pads for each site. Plans also allow for future expansion as growth occurs. The Architectural Control Committee approved the plans on October 4th, 2018. The final approval letter from the Arkansas Department of Health is expected on October the 14th, 2018. Has that been received? It was received today. The project will be performed with in-house labor from recreation staff with support from public utilities and public works. Contract labor will be used on concrete pads. It is estimated this project will be completed under budget. The total budget is $100,000.
Any other discussion? Bill?
I have a question, Nancy, or maybe Stacy could answer this. How many people have used this in the last couple of years, and what do you anticipate if we expand it, or when you expand it, how much new business will you be getting?
I'm going to defer that to Stacy. I've It has gone up. I know usage has gone up. I don't have those figures with me.
So this year, we've seen a 30% increase in the usage of the RV park. A lot of that has to do with the change out to year-round water. So in the past, water has been available only April through October. And in 2018, we were able to go in for a very small amount and add year-round water so that we could insulate those opportunities for water at the RV park. Even before that, we began to see an increase in the number of users, both for property owners and for their guests. This year, as of year-to-date, we've already beat year-to-date in 2017 and have a 33% increase over that year-to-date from last year. So at the end of the year, we expect that number to be closer to probably 45 or 50%, depending on when we actually start construction, because we'll actually lose any revenues that we would have had in the months that we closed down in order to replace the utilities.
I think this is, since we have some opportunities with Oaklawn as a chance to maybe get some business from there, because during their race season, there are a lot of RVs that come into the hot springs, so opportunities exist for us maybe to take advantage of some of those things, because I know that Gulf of Gorge go through there during race season, they don't hardly have any slots open. Yeah.
Cindy?
I'm looking at the project summary that accompanied this motion. It shows no impact to the balance sheet at all. We don't anticipate any impact at all to the balance sheet.
Well, net, right, cash, and it goes in as an asset.
So that's all that is.
Yeah, I think that's what, yeah.
Because all the lines there are empty cash and everything in that section, so.
Most of that is because it's going to be done in-house, is that correct?
That's correct. We'll be doing the labor in-house, so the expenses will be just for the materials.
Yeah, to Cindy's point though, thank you for catching that. I think we didn't fully fill out that section. Yeah, so we just want to capture that as part of our discussing cash, discussing member equity, discussing that asset impact. Yeah.
Stacy, I still have a question about how we can get a washer dryer in there. And, you know, I mean, whether we charge to use it or not, which would probably be a good thing, I think that would be real beneficial, because RVers like that kind of thing. They don't want to have to drive somewhere they're going to stay away to do clothes or whatever.
So I'll tell you, Mike, we certainly considered that in the subcommittee that we put together. So back in February, we invited members of the public who had RV experience, both in users or maybe running a park, to sit in on a subcommittee from the recreation committee. And part of those discussions listed everything we'd like to have. So let's start with what we'd like to see someday, and then break it down into what we can afford to do within the budget that we have as kind of what we figure is a phase one. So adding sewer to every site was a major priority for us.
Yeah.
Fixing the entrance and exit road was actually the #1 priority that we had there. What we're hoping to do is kind of in a phase two, and we want to see what usage numbers, kind of like the cover for pickleball, we want to see what the usage numbers become for the RV park, is to add an actual bathhouse facility and a small pavilion area so that you would have an actual shower and a restroom and clean laundry was the item that we looked at to be added in that area as kind of a phase 2 improvement.
Do we have an end date for all this?
We're thinking, I believe it's a 3-month, 90-day construction.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Just to remind ourselves, this is ratification of a decision that was made in approving the budget last year. So we're just affirming that decision, but for the sake, as Nancy said, for the sake of urgency, let's go ahead and all those, I guess we're through with discussion. All those in favor of affirming this decision, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll move forward. Protected covenants revision, Buddy Dixon.
I move to approve amendments to the
the Hot Springs Village Protected Covenants as outlined in the attached recommendations that you all have a copy of.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Following the process adopted by the Board of Directors at the August 15, 2018 regular meeting and contained in Hot Springs Village Policy Article 8, Section 5, the Architectural Control Commission, ACC, met on August 23, 2018, to review and recommend clarification of the protected covenant. Their suggested changes were reviewed on September 4, 2018, by the ACC Chair, John Cronin, Board Liaison, myself, our CEO, Leslie Nally, and ACC Staff Liaison, Stephanie Miller. This group made minor changes and added 2 additional recommendations. Their unanimous recommendations were returned to the ACC, which reviewed them at their regular meeting on September 6, 2018, and unanimously agreed with these recommendations. These recommendations were presented to the board during the September 19, 2018 regular board meeting.
Discussion. B, Mike?
So understanding is we're just making the property lines that are 3 inches small on the natural grass and street right of way abutting the property, that's one of the big rest of
We've had the conversation, I didn't get to tell you this morning, John Cronin had a discussion with Jason Temple this morning, and the way it was written originally was okay, so we marked out that change. That paragraph is gone. It was as presented back in September.
Everything else fell okay.
Everything else is the same.
Any more questions or discussions? Being none, then we will move to vote to approve revisions to Hot Springs Village protected covenants as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next business in order is the 2019 budget fee schedule. The chair recognizes Director Cunningham.
I move to approve the 2019 budget and fee schedule, version 2, with one revision from what was presented in September. That revision is a reduction of golf revenue offset by reductions in operating and capital spending and using $125,000 more in escrowed funds as detailed below. And I'm not going to go through all the assumptions and the budget revisions. We've all had a chance to read those.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, as the board knows, I have expressed concerns about this budget and the process that brought us to the point throughout my brief tenure here as director. I have a concern about the process that brought us to this point, a process that I believe should have begun last spring with the board and CEO agreeing on general financial planning and budgeting policies and parameters, multi-year strategies for revenue generation, subsidization, land acquisition and divestiture, development, deferred maintenance, and marketing should have been discussed at this time. I have a concern about the presentation of the budget. Its format is not aligned to the monthly financial reporting that we receive, making it difficult to map the proposed budget to current projected financial performance. It's not sufficiently informative to compare the 2019 budget to the 2018 budget. And I have concern about the budget itself, particularly with regard to the limited revenue projection and the resulting limited capital funding for deferred maintenance. However, this board rightfully governs by policy, and the proposed 2019 budget meets all existing budget policies. So I will vote in favor of the 2019 budget with appreciation to all who prepared it. But I call on this board to make investments in the coming months to improve our financial planning, budgeting, and reporting policies and processes. Perhaps we can start by dusting off the 2012 and 2013 recommendation by RASP to the board regarding a recommended financial planning process. I would like for the governance committee to take this topic on in early 2019.
Any other comments or questions regarding the budget? Being none, then we'll move to vote on the motion to approve the 2019 budget and fee schedule with one revision from what was presented in September, a reduction in golf revenues as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the next business in order is a board member resignation and interim director election. We will go with Director Erickson, but before we do that, the chair recognizes Bill Rowe.
Thank you, Tom. As probably most of you know, it's myself that's resigning from the board. I'd like to explain why. I think most of you, maybe not all of you, know that my wife passed away a little over a year ago. Last fall and last winter, I had severe health problems. I was in the hospital for a total of 9 nights, 1 night in ICU. Since then, thankfully to God and everybody else, I'm much better. So I decided to put my house on the market, and talking to my 3 kids, 2 of which live in Illinois and 1 in Minnesota, I said, Dad, don't you think it's about time to move back closer to us? It is about a 10, 12, 14-hour drive, one way, then to come down and see me. And I already figured out, since Becky's gone, they're not going to come down and see me very often. So I got to go there. So I do have a contract in the house. Hopefully I'll have maybe a second contract today. I've scheduled a move the first part of November to Bloomington, Illinois. I know it's north, it's cold, and I lived there for 18 years before I moved down here. Hopefully I will not spend too many winters there. I'll be going to Texas, Florida, maybe the Caribbean or whatever during the wintertime. I do want to thank the past board that I worked with. And I was fortunate, we had the same board for 2 years. We got to know each other, we respected one another, and I think we did very well. I also like the current board. I think the 3 new board members have made this board exciting and so forth. I do want, and I mean that, it is exciting. I do want to say a word about Leslie. I have worked with all of the various managers that we've had in the last 10 or 15 years. I was on ACC for 7 years, on the board for almost 3 years. And this lady really deserves more recognition for doing the quality job that she does. I know the inner workings. I know the staff. The staff that she has is unparalleled with any time in the village history. So when you think of Leslie, think how good she is for the village, and she means well, as all of the current board members think that too. One last comment. Those of you that are thinking about voting no for the decorations, please rethink this. Don't cut off your nose and spite your face. This is for the property owners. It's you know, Cooper set this up in 1970, where the property owners do have a right to take a vote. It requires 2/3. It was 10 years that you could make this decision. They moved it to 7 years. If we don't pass this, or if you guys don't pass this, it'll be another 7 years before we can do anything. My main concern about Mr. Cooper, who I do have a lot of respect for, his grandparents, or his grandfather and his father, who put this beautiful village together, is that Mr. Cooper is very interested, as far as I'm concerned, in selling out. He tried to get us to buy it, and my concern is that if he sells this to another developer, you know this developer is going to develop. They're going to maybe develop outside the village. It's going to cost all of us property owners a lot to finance the infrastructure and so forth. But anyway, I've enjoyed the board. I wish you everybody well. Thank you very much.
We're gonna miss you, Bill, but we'll keep that cold weather up there for you. Okay. The chair recognizes Director Erickson.
Mr. Chairman, in executive session on October 1st, 2018, this board was notified by Director Bill Rowe of his intent to resign from the POA board effective at the conclusion of the October 2018 stated board meeting. Article 7 of the Hot Springs Village POA bylaws states, Section 5, resignation. Any director may resign from the board at any time by giving written notice to the chair or the secretary of the association, and unless otherwise specified therein, the acceptance of such resignation shall not be necessary to make it effective. Section 7, vacancies. If a director, for any reason, does not complete a term of office, the board may elect by majority vote of the remaining directors any member in good standing as an interim director until the succeeding election, at which time the pendency of the vacant term, if any, shall be filled by a vote of the membership. Mr. Chairman, in executive session on October 10th, 2018, this board unanimously elected Mr. Ralph Turpin as interim director effective at the conclusion of this meeting to serve through the April 2019 stated board meeting. Because Director Rowe's 3-year term would have concluded at that time, there will be no remaining vacant term. Mr. Turpin has served as president of a 400-home homeowners association and served for 8 years on the Mansfield, Texas Planning and Zoning Commission, 5 of them as chairman. In that role, his committee planned and zoned several projects using smart growth strategies and combined residential, commercial, and multifamily development in a single area to avoid urban sprawl. His full bio will be published in Friday's Village Digest. It is with regret that this board accepts Director Rowe's resignation, and we express our appreciation for his many years of service to this association and its property owners.
There we go.
Okay. All right. Bill, we're going to miss you again. Okay. With that, we're here to affirm that we did vote to appoint Ralph Turpin. So with that in mind, I would like Mr. Turpin to come forward so we can give the oath of office. For those who may not know, this is Ralph Turpin. Oath of office for members of the Hot Springs Village Property Owners Association Board of Directors. I, Ralph Turpin, do solemnly swear to the best of my abilities I shall fully discharge the responsibilities entrusted to me as a member of the Board of Directors of the Hot Springs Village Property Owners Association, and shall uphold all the bylaws, declarations, covenants, policies pertaining thereto. So signify by saying I do. I do. Great. And today we'll be sworn in this 17th day of October with my signature. Welcome aboard. There's one other thing we need to do, but before we do, I want to open it up to the board to say if there's anything you want to say to Bill before officially in the meeting.
Well, I've known Bill for a long time. We spent several years together on the ACC. You knew his family, and you just really, really enjoyed knowing him. He's very active in our church and nights and men's club. Very active on this board. Bill, we're going to miss you.
I appreciated working with Bill. I always appreciate working with people that have common sense. And he does. He's helped the board significantly in his time on the board. So, thank you, Bill.
Bill, I just want to say thank you for being such a supportive board member. And by that, I mean not always agree, but supporting the right thing. And I respect you tremendously, and I know the staff do as well. I know you've been a tremendous help to the Recreation Department, specifically ACC in the past. And we respect the fact that you're always willing to share your opinion, your beliefs, and keep us moving forward. So thank you.
Bill, we've seen a lot of fuss and feathers. And I appreciate you.
Thank you, Bill, for your years of community service beyond being on the board. I've known Bill for a long, long time too. In fact, had the pleasure of going to Jamaica with he and Becky. Becky and I, her with her dreadlocks and riding the bus around Jamaica. Believe me, it's a hoot. But I'm glad that we were able to give you some excitement. I hope that wasn't the reason you decided to leave me. Thank you again, Bill.
I don't have a story like that. In fact, Bill and I have not known each other real long. However, what I remember most about Bill in my short tenure as director is just how welcoming and supporting he was to me as a new director, and I very much appreciate that and wish you only the best.
Well, I think I've already said that, but I will say God bless you. Okay, we have one thing that isn't on the agenda that I would like to bring forward, and it's been brought to my attention that under Article 12, Section 4, paragraph H, a member who is serving on the board whose spouse presently serves on the board of directors shall not, or whose spouse certainly serves on the board of directors shall not serve on a standing committee until after completion of the service of the board of directors. Ralph is the chair of the appeals committee. They are having a meeting at 1:30 today to deal with two issues. I'm asking the board, as parliamentarian, to set aside this policy for this meeting today, and so the meeting can continue, and then we would make appropriate appointments so that this doesn't happen again.
I move we suspend the rules of policy as stated so that Ralph can fulfill his duty this afternoon, and then you can retire from that aspect.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just might add that we owe it to the members to get these appeals. So that's why we're doing this.
Any more discussion or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New business, board member comments. Nancy?
I wrote out something, and I may change it as I go along, but having been a board member for 6 months, there are some observations I'd like to make. Many in the village have minimal interest in facts as opposed to rumor. Only about 31 people attended the 2 recent budget presentations. The management team is always more than willing to share information if only asked. Number 2, the name-calling and verbal abuse that a volunteer is subject to is appalling. I've been called a turncoat and asked how I sleep at night. People feel that it is their right to get in your face at the grocery store or at a restaurant because they voted for you. I thought the votes I received were because I was fair, logical, and concerned. Those things have not changed. Number 3, the selfish behavior of many in the village is also quite revealing. Someone told me non-resident property owners do not care as much as the residents about their property, so we should not even include them in this vote. If the vocal minority do not use an amenity in the village, they say, then we should get rid of that amenity. Close a golf course, they say, when in reality they are saying they do not care about your property owner value, just theirs. The primary responsibility of the board of directors is to protect your property value. Number 4, as a board director, I committed to represent everyone that lives here and those who don't. I will not back down from this. And by the way, I do sleep at night. Thank you.
I just found out this morning when I went to breakfast that there's a health fair over on Carmona. Village Home Care is giving flu shots today. They're providing coffee and donuts. So if you want to get it, it's open from 7 a.m. to noon. So you got about an hour, almost 2 hours yet, if you want to get a flu shot. It's Carmona and DeSoto, across on the other side, next door to Deborah's. Put on by Health and Wellness.
Do we get 2 donuts if we get 2 shots?
I don't know.
Anyone else?
I'd like to just add something that Nancy said, and I think people are sitting out here need to know. When I ran for the board, I didn't intend to be threatened. I had had 2 threats on all this stuff going on in the village. People need to sit back and think about what's going on. And when it comes to doing something personal to my house, my car, which the threats were, I think that's going a little too far. So, other than that, we're going to miss Bill. Welcome to the new board member, and upward and on. Thank you.
Yes.
I was so wrapped up in It's All About Me today. Welcome, Ralph.
Yes.
You'll do a great job.
Thank you very much, but you guys are scaring me already.
Yeah, Ralph has assured me that the great friendship we have is now in it.
Any other comments? Being none, then are there comments and questions from the audience? Being none, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.